नमस्कार दोस्तों, वेलकम टू बीइंग मैजिकल।
Ever wondered why the healthier options in a grocery store are always at eye level? This isn't by chance. It's a deliberate strategy known as nudging. Pioneered by Richard Thaler, a Nobel laureate in economics, nudging is a fascinating concept in behavioral economics, a field that merges psychology and economics to explore how we make decisions. Imagine you're in a supermarket. The fruits, vegetables, and whole grains are right there at your eye level, or perhaps near the checkout counter. On the other hand, the sugary snacks, the sodas, the processed foods are tucked away on lower shelves or hidden corners. Why does this matter, you ask? Well, the answer lies in Thaler's nudge theory. Nudge theory suggests that by subtly altering the environment around us, our choices can be nudged in a particular direction. Now, this isn't about taking away our freedom to choose. No, it's about guiding us towards making better choices, ones that are beneficial for us in the long run. In the supermarket example, the healthier foods are nudged into our line of sight. We still have the freedom to reach down and grab that bag of chips, but by placing healthier options at eye level, the store is subtly encouraging us to make a better choice. This is nudging in action. Thaler's idea has far-reaching implications, extending beyond the aisles of your local grocery store. Governments and big corporations often employ nudging strategies to influence our decisions. From the design of public health campaigns to the architecture of online shopping websites, nudges are everywhere, steering our choices in more ways than we realize. So, the next time you're shopping, whether it's for groceries, clothes, or even browsing through an online store, take a moment to think. Who's nudging your choices? Are the options you're presented with truly your own? Or are they shaped by subtle cues in your environment? The art of nudging, my friends, is powerful and pervasive. It's a tool that shapes our decisions, often without us even realizing it. So next time you're shopping, think about who might be nudging your choices. Why do people buy expensive brand name products when cheaper, equally effective alternatives exist? Ponder on this as we delve into the world of limited rationality, a concept brought forth by none other than Richard Thaler. Now, classical economics would have us believe that we're all perfectly rational beings, making the best choices every time. But Thaler, with his behavioral economics lens, challenges this notion. He suggests that our decision-making process isn't always rational, but rather dictated by heuristics and biases. These are the shortcuts our brains take when making decisions, and boy, do they love a good shortcut. Take brands, for instance. We're all familiar with the allure of the big names. The swoosh of Nike, the bitten apple of Apple, the golden arches of McDonald's. These logos have become synonymous with quality, innovation, and comfort. But why is that? Well, it's a combination of factors. First, our brains are wired to recognize patterns and stick to what's familiar. So, when we see a brand we know, our brains light up like a Christmas tree. Hey, I know this. I trust this, it says. This is called the familiarity heuristic. And it's one of the reasons we gravitate towards well-known brands. Second, we have the bandwagon effect. If everyone else is buying it, it must be good, right? Wrong. This is a cognitive bias that leads us to believe that popularity equals quality. But that's not always the case. And lastly, we have the perception of value. We often equate higher prices with higher quality, even though that's not always true. A big brand can slap a hefty price tag on an average product, and we'd still buy it thinking it's superior. So what's the takeaway here? Well, it's simple. Be aware of these biases and heuristics. Next time you're shopping, take a step back and question your choices. Are you buying that high-priced item because it's genuinely better, or because your brain is falling for the trap of brands? Remember, a high price tag doesn't always mean high quality. Governments often manipulate our choices without us even realizing it. Richard Thaler, a leading figure in behavioral economics, calls this the choice architecture. It's the design of the environment in which we make decisions, the presentation of options that subtly guides our choices. Let's take the example of energy policies. Imagine you're a homeowner, considering the switch to a greener energy source. You explore your options and find out that solar panels, while initially expensive, could save you money in the long run and help curb your carbon footprint. Seems like a no-brainer, right? But then there's the government quietly shaping your choice architecture. They provide subsidies and tax breaks for fossil fuel companies, which, in turn, helps to keep the cost of traditional energy sources artificially low. So, even though you're aware of the environmental benefits of renewable energy, the immediate financial savings offered by fossil fuels might just sway your decision. And there you have it. Without directly restricting your freedom of choice, the government has nudged you towards a particular option. This is the backbone of choice architecture. By controlling how choices are presented, those in power can direct our decisions in ways that serve their interests. But it's not just governments. Big corporations also play a part. They present us with a carefully curated selection of products, organized in a way that guides us towards certain purchases. Ever wondered why the most expensive brands are always at eye level in the supermarket? That's choice architecture in action, my friends. So the next time you're making a decision, pause for a moment. Consider the choice architecture surrounding you. Are the options presented in a neutral manner, or is there a subtle nudge nudging you towards a particular choice? Are you making the decision based on your best interests, or are you being guided by an unseen hand? So, when it comes to decisions, remember the architecture matters as much as the choices. We tend to overvalue what we own, but why? This question brings us to the doorstep of Richard Thaler's concept of the endowment effect. It's a bias that causes us to overestimate the value of our possessions simply because they're ours. But how does this play out in the grand scheme of things? Picture a park in your neighborhood, a public asset that's been around for generations. It's a place where kids play, families picnic, and communities come together. Now imagine that the government sells this park to a private corporation, all in the name of efficiency and cost-effectiveness. Suddenly, the park is no longer accessible to everyone. It's been transformed into a private resort. Its entry now comes with a hefty fee. This is an example of the illusion of ownership at play. The park was a public asset, owned by everyone, and yet its value was underestimated until it was in private hands. The endowment effect blinds us, making us believe that what is privately owned is worth more than what is collectively owned. It's not just parks, though. This illusion extends to other public assets too: transportation systems, utilities, even education and healthcare. When these are sold off to private corporations, the cost of access rises, and the quality often diminishes. Yet the illusion persists that because they're now privately owned, they must be worth more. This illusion of ownership is a tool in the arsenal of governments and big capitalists. By selling off public assets, they not only enrich themselves but also manipulate our perception of value. They make us believe that privatization is beneficial, even when it leads to higher prices and reduced accessibility. It's a sneaky game, but it's one we can learn to see through. The next time you're told that something is more valuable because it's privately owned, question it. Look beyond the illusion of ownership. Remember, just because it's privately owned doesn't make it inherently more valuable. Just because it's yours doesn't mean it's worth more. Ever noticed how governments prioritize corporate bailouts over public welfare? This, my friends, is a classic example of what Richard Thaler calls mental accounting. It's a cognitive quirk where we humans, including those in power, categorize and value money differently based on its source and intended use. Think of it this way. Your government receives a huge chunk of money from taxpayers. Now, instead of investing this money in public health care or education, they label it as a rescue fund for failing industries. This is like putting money into different mental accounts and spending it based on these labels rather than its actual value or the overall need. While it may seem logical to the decision makers, it often leads to imbalances and neglect of key sectors. The illusion here is that money in different categories carries different weight. But in reality, money is just money. Remember, money has no labels. Why do governments cut public spending during economic crises? This question leads us into the world of behavioral finance, a field greatly influenced by the works of Richard Thaler. When economies stumble, governments often resort to austerity measures, slashing public spending and cutting social programs. On the surface, it seems like a move to stabilize the economy, but it's more complex than that. Thaler's insights reveal that these decisions are not purely economic, but are also driven by psychological factors. Governments, under the pressure of financial markets and big capitalists, may prioritize the appearance of fiscal responsibility over the welfare of their citizens. The result? Deepened inequality and hardship for ordinary folks, while the wealthy continue to profit. This game of behavioral finance shows us that our financial landscape is not just a matter of numbers and policies. It's also about understanding and navigating the complex web of human behavior. In the world of finance, behavior matters